I'm going to start talking about a story of a goat. Think this is a community where like average 50 homes are there. They have similar kind of gates or fences. The goat passes through and destroys the garden. Now, it's a big problem. It's a unique problem that needs to be resolved. So, how has it been solved? It's been solved in a very crude way, but in a unique way that was much more cheap. It was done by a person who is not a designer, who never went to a school, never had a formal education. He took a bamboo, split it into 3 pieces, and made a triangle out of that. That doesn't allow the goat to go through the fences and destroy the garden. Now, why are we talking about this? See, whenever there is a design problem, the most challenging part is to identify the problem itself. So what happens when we, as design educators, teach in a classroom situation? If I take a project like olive oil packaging project, when we assign a project to the student, they look into faculty expectation. What are we expecting out of them? And the next thing they would like to see is an example or various examples. And the reason they want to see this because they are trying to figure out what is our expectation so that they can aim for good grades. The very next step, they will look into some search engines for results. So when they do that, the enormous amount of results comes through the search engines, and they set 1 or 2 that they like and go for it. So if you look at the solutions, they're pretty similar. Though the bottles are different in terms of shapes, but the concept of the drop of oil is similar to each other. And to add to that, there are websites which allows them to create the prototypes in a 3D format, which looks pretty original, and they avoid certain steps to come up with the solution. So what is happening to these young designers? So instead of doing a thorough research, they are going through browsing search engines and looking at pre-existing solutions. And the result of that is they are becoming more surface-level problem solvers, which lacks innovation and originality. So it's a huge problem for educators like us who is trying to figure out the method of engaging students in a classroom and coming up with more critical thinking and innovative design solutions. There is an article by Stephen Hiller who said that the graduates, the design graduates, they change their profession within the year of passing. So it seems to be somewhere not working. So I looked into my students very deeply and tried to find out what is the problem, what is the real problem that they are facing that is stopping them to be much more creative or taking the challenges and the risks. The first and foremost, the fear of failing. They don't want to fail because either their scholarship is going to stop from that or the parents are going to be unhappy about their results. Fear of getting bad grades. Now, I do understand that when you don't perform well and you have a bad grade, it really reflects on your education, reflects on you. And what that is doing, it's preventing them from taking the risks and chances that they need to do to explore new ideas. So the design education needs to be explored outside the pre-existing solutions, and we need to foster critical thinking and to foster creativity. So I looked into more details and came up with some key objectives. Looked at the curriculum and figured out that they need to be analytically analyzing the projects. They need to work together and evaluating it themselves to do better. They need to come out from the pre-existing solutions and look into things from different perspectives. They need to be engaged in different organizations and different other design clubs and organizations, talk to their peers, collaborate with different disciplines, working on prototypes and working with professionals in the industry and working with real-world projects. So I started looking at our curriculum and tried to figure out what is working and what's not working. The next step I did was talking to our alumni, the fresh graduates, the kind of problems and the kind of challenges they face once they join the industry. Then I started talking to the industry itself. What are their expectations? What are they looking into the young designers? So I found out that they need to see how to solve a problem from different methods, from different ways of thinking. So instead of just using the hammer to hammer the nail, there can be various other elements can be used to do the same process. So when we introduced a project, we introduced them through various methodologies that can help them to understand the project in much more in-depth sense. So they do a thorough research, collect information, and then analytically analyze the problem, understand the behavior of the consumer or the user, design it, prototype it, and then implement and test it, and then finally go through some sort of a systems thinking to analyze the problem and see if there are any flaws in that particular solution. So the changes, what we have seen through that is when we assign them a project, we look into case studies. Case studies that we talk about how each of these problems are being discussed, how each of these problems have been tackled, how these problems are being figured out. Then we go through a discussion. The discussion really helps them to understand how other design companies or designers have solved a problem, and we stopped showing examples to them because the example sets them a kind of a mindset to achieve and get the right grade. So what we have seen through that is they're coming up with new design ideas that are much more ergonomically driven. So we introduced ergonomics as a part of this part of the program, which is team taught by the engineering as well as graphic design. Each of these projects now getting recognized by getting awards and things like that. They need to go and talk to the consumer. They go and actually measure shelves to talk to the consumers, figure out what works and what doesn't. In this particular assignment, they were testing some individuals with arthritis, individuals with having problems with lifting or picking up things. This particular design was to design the dollar bill for visually impaired. All our dollar bills, if you look at it, they all look similar. For a disabled person, it's been difficult to figure out which one is what size of amount. So going through various stages and methods to figure out and identify a dollar bill in few seconds was what the project was all about. In this particular design, what happened was a car seat is one of the safest design has been done by many product designers. And but what happens is 80% of parents installed the car seat wrong for the first time. So when we realized that through our research, the students came up with very simple solutions that can prevent them from doing so. They're also getting involved with more client-driven projects that are much more practical. They are going through executions, which was not part of the program. So they are not only designing something, but they are also executing and going through the process to do better. We started collaborating with international design schools so that they can have exchanges where they can go and study abroad, and their students can come and study with us and figure out what works and what doesn't. Though design is same all over the world, but what makes design different is the culture and the context. And that is what we want our students to learn. They're becoming much more global player rather than, they are thinking only within that particular environment. They are also doing international internships, so they go abroad for 2 months between their junior year and the senior year to do internship and have the experiences. Those challenges really help them to become much more focused. They are much better off. They think very differently once they come back. They've also been pushed to go to different design conferences and talk about their design ideas. They also, that helps them to basically, collaborate and, teamwork or write research papers together. And we have seen several successes through this. I personally feel that that the young designers need to be much more of a thinker. They just cannot live on the ideas of World Wide Web and getting inspired only by that, not doing in-depth research in the design field. And it's a lot of work need to be done. I have realized that things are changing in my program, and it's doing better, but there's a lot to be done to achieve better results. And thank you very much.